Amazonia has lost over 20,000 people. They are talking about 3,000 dead. Only Cameroon forces that have died in Ambazonia are like 2,000, according to statistics that are being given. Ambazonians have been slaughtered in their number over 20,000. Yet the West is still dragging its foot, offering platitudes, and it's because there is just this insensitivity to when black lives are being lost. Let's just face the truth. I mean, I was in the office. I had a meeting with Senator Dick Durbin in Illinois in 2019 in May. We had a meeting in his office, and I was talking about why don't you guys? I mean, I'm like, the United States is at the root of the creation of this issue, because if Germany had been defeated, or not if, but as Germany was defeated in First World War, why did you guys have to split Cameroon? The United States could have taken Cameroon as a protectorate. France could have taken the whole of Cameroon, and then Cameroonians would have grown up having the status as a united country. Britain could have taken the country, just like the colonies that Germany had in Africa, were Togo, were Namibia, which was called Southwest Africa then, and Tanganyika, which is present-day Tanzania. Just like the whole of Tanzania was given to England, the whole of Cameroon should have been given to France. And it was the military strength of the United States that defeated Germany, leading to the partitioning of Cameroon, leading to the two Cameroons having their two independent entities in international law. I told Dick Durbin, Senator Dick Durbin, the good senator from Illinois, I said, you guys are part of this problem because American military power defeated Germany, and you guys allowed two entities to be created with equal status in international law. 1961, you guys knew that UN Resolution 1514 said, give independence to all countries, irrespective of their economic or political preparedness for a leadership.
Exactly.
The Southern Cameroon, yes, consistent with UN Resolution 1514, should have gotten its independence. The U.S. congressman from Wisconsin, who was representing the United States in the United Nations then, Congressman Zabloki, agitated against this whole question of us joining French Cameroon. If you read his quotes, he said it would be catastrophic against the political future of the Southern Cameroons. So you guys knew it back then. Now it has erupted into warfare. How come you guys don't go and intervene? UN Article 51 gives countries the right to intervene in other countries when humanitarian crisis is at stake. This is what Congressman, Senator Dick Durbin told me. He said, Valentine, don't forget that the Bosnian conflict, because I gave him a reference to the Bosnian conflict in 1995, where the United States intervened to stop Serbia from slaughtering minorities in Bosnia, in Croatia, in Montenegro, leading to the freeing of those countries. Senator Dick Durbin told me that, Valentine, don't forget that when the United States was intervening in Yugoslavia, which I call Yugoslavia, but when the United States was intervening in Yugoslavia, 1 million Africans were being killed in Rwanda, because the Rwandan conflict started in 1994 and cropped into 1995. So while the Clinton was bombing the crap out of Serbia to stop that war, the murders were going on in Yugoslavia. So we have to be realistic to ourselves and own that perspective, that the West responds when it comes to rescue its resources. And one thing about Ambazonia is that Ambazonia is so rich in resources. We are right there in the Gulf of Guinea, which is estimated to have 30% of the world's oil reserves. Only God knows how much the French oil companies and maybe some of the US oil companies are stealing oil from our resources. So there is a huge international conspiracy that is going on to keep the lead on the conflict of Ambazonia from representing itself fully in the international fair. That's why when we see UN officials from the Commonwealth, Patricia Scotland, they come, they drink, they wine at Etudi, they give them some gold statue, and they go back quiet. When the truth is that the killing of our people is being ratcheted up. So, as Comrade Emma said, yes, there is an international conspiracy that is going on, and it does not mean we should relate our efforts. It means we should increase and exact the price on the oppressor. It means we should increase our sensitization, as we're talking about. It means we should plan demonstrations not only against La République, but against French embassies around the world, because France is the chief perpetrator of this conflict. But also, to add to what I'm saying, there is a lot of sensitization that is going on. Comrade Emma and I belong to the Ambazonian Coalition Team Act, and the Ambazonian Coalition Team does a lot of work in sensitizing foreign governments, foreign institutions. Currently, we are doing a lot of work in sensitizing some of those countries that are coming to those games to know that if they are coming to play in Ambazonia, they should be very cognizant of the fact that they are coming into a war zone. So there is a lot of sensitization going on. Is it enough? It is not enough, because it has not solved the conflict. So we need to do more.
Thank you, Barrister. You know, that aspect of sensitization and blaming French, and what Dr. Epa said was true. The British government has to be held accountable, because they cannot leave their British Empire in Africa and live without settling them for independence. Imagine that they went and first of all held their plebiscite with the two questions. How can you give independence to somebody with a defined territorial sovereignty? You went and hold plebiscite and asked them two questions. That is robbery. Dr. Epa, you made mention that they should also file a lawsuit against the British, and I support that.
Regarding that issue on the law, let me interject a little bit. Regarding that issue on the lawsuit, legal matters are very tricky. Ambazonia, let me assure Ambazonians that they have a team of very fine lawyers who are looking at this case from all facets. And there are precedents of lawsuits that have been filed against the British. For example, when the British fought the Mau Mau in Kenya and left landmines back, and those landmines injured a lot of people, there were suits against Britain in the right jurisdictions, and it led to compensations being paid. But you have to understand that lawsuits sometimes are not just legal, but they are also political. And given the fact that it is not strategic for us to drag Britain into a lawsuit right now, we already have one member of the United Nations Security Council, France, that is adamant against our independence. We do not want to invite a second. And so, while you are very right, and while Dr. Epa is very right, that Britain had a duty to the people of the Southern Cameroons, and consistent with the trusteeship rules, Britain breached that duty, which has led to tens of thousands of deaths in the Southern Cameroons. You are very right about that. But in terms of political strategy, in prosecuting and pursuing the cause of our independence, the cause of regaining our sovereignty, that might not be the strategic thing to do at this time. So thank you.
Let's be clear about one thing, and I'm not the lawyer on this panel, so I'll defer on all things legal to the lawyer on the panel. Okay. But as far as I can tell, only another member country of the United Nations can bring a case in ICJ against Cameroon, forcing it to produce the treaty by which it claims sovereignty over Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia. So when we talk about lawsuits, yes, there is a lawsuit that can be brought, but it would be on individuals, not on the country. As long as we have not yet secured for ourselves a country that believes that international charters were not adhered to, resolutions passed were not fully implemented or correctly implemented, or that international law has been broken. There's precedents for this. We can go back to the Green Tree Accord, agreements between Nigeria and Cameroon, where Obasanjo asked Biya to take his troops to its borders at independence. So those kinds of stuff, I would let the lawyers opine, but we have to be clear. If to the extent that we don't have a country enter these matters to take it up at the level of the International Court of Justice, there cannot be a lawsuit against Cameroon. However, as Valentine has pointed out, there is a lawsuit in ICC naming individuals complicit in crimes against humanity. Before I see it very quickly, Fritz, there is, as a matter of fact, a high-level visit scheduled for Cameroon. The Secretary of State, the Prime Minister of the Holy See, Pedro Cardinal Parolin, has scheduled a visit for Cameroon. Has anybody heard about this? Now, the question for the peace-loving Cameroonians is he coming to resolve the problem? Is he coming to put pressure on Biya to get to the table of negotiations? Or is he coming only to get the Christian faithful Catholics, I am a practicing Catholics, to bend their heads in prayer and pray for peace with no action? So I think if this is not a generalized, diffused information, my call to all people of God is to say, if such a high-level personality is coming to Cameroon, we can expect one thing. He's either going to be received by his counterpart, Biya's co-conspirator brother from Guti, by the way, called Prime Minister Dion Gute, or he's going to be received at the level of the presidency. What message is he coming with? And why is it covert, if it is covert? Or is he simply coming for evangelism? Now, I know I'm not Bible-toting Catholic, but I know exactly who I relate to. But didn't God say you shall be seen by your actions as Christian, not only by saying God, God, God? So I am calling on all the faithful out there to take this visit as a matter of clear importance and implications for the killings in Mautu, and call on the Right Cardinal Pietro Parolin to put on his agenda as a critical matter to discuss with Biya of La République du Cameroon and ask him a simple question. Why are you so afraid to engage in negotiations without preconditions to address the root causes? Are you coming here simply to summon the Christians to Mass?
Thank you for that issue. We have a whole bunch of issue about this, the clergymen and their role in the struggle, because they have been silent. We all see in so many cases, most of the people who have been massacred are Christians and Muslims. So, but if these clergymen or these men of God or the imams are silent, then they have a role. They have a part of the blame. So that's another topic some other time that we shall handle. But for now, I want to talk to Dr. Epa about this issue of plebiscite. Why on earth did they come and held a plebiscite in Ambazonia, southern Cameroon, a sovereign country with boundaries, with flag, with already first country to hold a very, very smooth and fair election in Africa? They come and ask them, do you want to join Nigeria or do you want to join La Republique? Dr. Epa, I don't know what this entails. This is fraud. Dr. Epa. Dr. Epa, are you hearing me?
Yes. Can you hear me too?
Yes, 5 on 5.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, 5 on 5. Yes.
Okay. Before I go to that question, let me just say a little bit about, in fact, just to add to what Dr. Osong has said regarding the representative of the Pope who is coming to Ambazonia. I would say Cameroon. I would say Cameroon and Ambazonia. I'm also a Catholic. Last week I said something, but let me give you a little bit of story. Which one Reverend Father, he's I think he's in the United States, but he happens to come to our church sometimes, and then he was the one who was to deliver his homily that day. There were other Reverend Fathers in church, mostly white people. He came up with this story. He said a Reverend Father was trying to move somewhere, going to somewhere. I think his car was down, so he decided to take a taxi. On their way to the destination, they had a very serious accident, and all of them died. And when they went to heaven, the people who received them, I believe they were angels or so, they gave them a place to sit down, a waiting room for them to sit down. Then after a few minutes, they called the two of them, and then they showed the taxi driver a well-furnished apartment, well-furnished with gold, an apartment that we do not even have on this earth. And after that, the guests took the Reverend Father to a small studio, which was less beautiful and furnished like the one given to the taxi driver. Then he concluded that all their titles like priest, bishop, pope, and whatsoever, imams and Pentecostal churches, what they call bishop or pastors, are just vocations. So people hardly clap during humility in Catholic Church, but the whole church stood up and clapped, including all those white priests who were there. What we sometimes think is that these people are too holy. It is the job that is accepted to do. But does that assure them that they'll go to heaven and be selected by Jesus as a king? There are 5 crowns in the Bible, five crowns that everybody should try to get, even 2. If you're able to get 3 or 4, I don't think anybody may get 5. But I have a friend from Nigeria who is working on 5. Those are the people who rule with Jesus. And all the Bia and the rest, all those people and the Pope, you might not even see them there. You'll be the one ruling them. And that's the fact. Because you don't know what is done behind it, what they do behind. Everybody is a sinner. It does not matter the title. But if you don't repent, repentance, you might go to heaven, but you will not be that type of level. Other people will be ruling you in heaven. So let me go to this question of this plebiscite. Why they decided to hold that plebiscite in Fumba? No, it was held in La Republic, not even in Ambazonia or in southern Cameroon. Well, the plebiscite was made in Ambazonia. That's correct. We felt that we should not go back to Nigeria because Dr. Indele wanted us to go back to Nigeria. But because of the behaviors of Igbos in southern Cameroon, they were over everything. I remember when I was a small child, You go to Kumba, a woman will just touch, or you, anybody will touch an Igbo man's cloth. He will tear it and throw it on you that you have to buy. With other experiences and the way they were being treated in Nigeria, they decided to pull out. And during the plebiscite, with that experience, they didn't want to go back to Nigeria. Foncha campaigned so much against that, and finally he won that election. But during the Fumbang Accord, Southern Cameroons had expected that Britain will come. But the British did not. France sent a lot of people to intimidate the Southern Cameroonians with their soldiers around and all that. The only good thing was that Foncha and his leadership team did not sign anything. We would have been finished by now. We would have been seeking for this independence, but that would have tied us down more if there was any paper signed. But they don't have anything to hold us. And they are trying to compare with Biafra and other. Biafra during independence, they were under Nigeria. They just want to separate from Nigeria, but they were under Nigeria during independence. When La Republic had its independence, we were not there.
Exactly.
We're still under Britain. I see, and I become very, very, very surprised with some of us who think that we have PhD or educated, giving false narrative to our people. Because some of us are eating fats under La Republic. The wealth that they get from us, they give them a little bit of it. And they are willing to share blood. That is the problem I have with those people. So, I think a lot of them still believe that whether federalism or any other arrangement will help. It's not going to help. They can only say it. They have been disappointed. Those who have been advocating for the federal structure, which was there in 1961 till 1972, they are still hoping for that. Forget about it. It cannot work. It is our own people, like Adu Karim have been saying. It is not the La Republic people, Betty and others, who are saying that let's go back to federalism. It is our own people from Southern Cameroons who are advocating for that. And I don't want to call their names. We all know them. Adu Karim have been saying this over and over. So, the only way is for us to have this independence. No, to have our independence actualized.
Okay.
They themselves have failed. They have failed. Thinking that the French, the African Union will do anything, they are a toothless bulldog. Because, first of all, their hands are not even clean themselves. Of course, nobody's hands are clean. Everybody is a sinner. But they have no guts to say enough is enough. They are afraid of their own positions. If you have to come to a war-torn zone to play football, what we call in the United States soccer, it's a sin crime to heaven for vengeance. And with the Pope's representative who is coming, let's hope that he is coming. He is going to meet with Bia's government, the Prime Minister. He must have done his research before coming. And let's hope that he's going to tell them the truth. Because if he does not tell them the truth and speak out speak out on TV, just like the American ambassador spoke on TV, that he has advised Mr. Biya to think about his legacy. And when Tebo Nadi came and also was interviewed and said, La Republic cannot win this war. That is what we expect from a godly man like that. Let him not come and hide behind the screen. They tell him whatsoever they can tell him. Before coming there, he knows the truth. A lot of bishops have written to France, to the president of France, Macron, to make sure that he tells La Republique to go to the negotiation table. I applaud those bishops. I thank them for doing the right thing. And many lawyers who have done so. Let him not come there and then speak to Biya's regime, just behind the screen, and without coming out. Then he knows it is going to be written in his book of records. Anyway, he knows that. And this video that we're talking now is going to be played before him when he dies. Let him hear me very well. This video will be played to him. He knows that it's going to be played for him. Everything that anybody is doing, the video will be played to him or her.
Thank you, Dr. Epa. Because of time, we'll move on to the next and final topic, which is the Swiss-led negotiation. And in this panel, we have two members who are there, who are in the ACT team, and they're doing a lot of work behind the scene. But without really going to the nooks and crannies of the negotiation process, I want to find out from them, what are they really doing behind the scene? But in terms of how to bring La Republique to the table, to the negotiation table, because many people are questioning. Yes, sir.
Comrade Fritz, I know we are running short of time, but there are just some few clarifications that I want to add to what Dr. Epa said. I'll be very brief. First of all, in the interest of our audience, the plebiscite was actually held in the southern Cameroons. It wasn't held in La Cameroon. And also, just to clarify something, while growing up, we were misled and given the opinion that our leaders sold us at Fumban. It is very clear that there was no accord. The word Fumban accord is a misnomer, because there was no accord, there was no agreement, there was nothing signed in Fumban. Also, just one addition, we always do not mention the Manfei Conference of August 1959. The leaders of the Southern Cameroons, all the leaders, the chiefs, held a conference in Manfei, and the decision was made on that if Britain wanted to impose a plebiscite, the question in the plebiscite was not supposed to be whether we join La République du Cameroun or Nigeria. The Southern Cameroonians leaders at the Manfei Conference in August 1959 decided that the question at the plebiscite should be whether we join Nigeria or whether we become an independent country. So our leaders at no point ever decided and endorsed that the questions of any plebiscite should be between joining Nigeria or joining French Cameroon. Our leaders endorsed that the question on the plebiscite should be between joining Nigeria and becoming independent. And this vote, which passed by a supermajority, 67 to 33%, was communicated to the United Nations. So that whole plebiscite thing of joining Nigeria or joining Cameroon was alien to the Southern Cameroons and was never endorsed by the Southern Cameroonians. In fact, if you read the British transcripts, which have been declassified, Poncha appealed to the British 3 times. Poncha told the British that if you people are not ready to give us outright independence, go ahead and postpone the independence. We don't want the independence if it's going to be joining Nigeria or French Cameroon. Remain a trusteeship, postpone the independence. St. Muna also wrote to the British asking them to postpone the independence instead of giving us independence on the condition of whether we join Nigeria or we join French Cameroon. So that whole notion that our leaders sold us was very false. I just wanted to inject those points to clarify our audience and to educate our audience on why our right to independence and the right to restore our sovereignty should be at high noon. So thank you.
Yes. Talking about the Swiss negotiation, many Ambazonians are wondering the outcome and are wondering what is going on behind the scene. But as members of the ACT team, I want Dr. Emma to tell us a little bit about what this La Republique is doing to commit to this negotiation, because they can't be playing these delay tactics and going behind and having some backdoor negotiation or backdoor talks with some people in jail and claiming that they are doing negotiation. The international community has called for an international mediation, an international peace settlement with international mediator, not a backdoor negotiation. So what is the ACT team doing to make sure that La Republique commit to this international negotiation? Dr. Emma.
Fritz, those are very, very important questions that are near and dear to every Southern Cameroon peace-loving Ambazonian's heart. And before I go into those very interesting set of discussions, let me say that as an independent member in ACT, one of the few women in ACT, we stand for peace, permanent peace predicated on justice. We do not stand for violence, but those young men and women who find themselves faced with the barrel of the gun have decided that they will defend themselves even in the face of death. And they have that right under international laws and conventions. Now, on the Swiss-led process, we are all very disappointed, but we should not be surprised that La Republique has refused to concretely engage in the process, submit itself, be present at the table where the armed groups have already indicated they are there, ready and willing, to discuss this crisis without any preconditions, addressing the root causes, as you say, Fritz. We shouldn't be surprised about that. Cameroon is busy normalizing where things are and telling the world there is nothing to say. What we should be all concerned about, because there is a thing called the Swiss process, for the never Swisses out there. Let's just be clear about it. There are some of our own brothers and sisters, bona fide Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians, who are busy creating this false narrative of there is nothing to see there. Meanwhile, there is the carnage we all see. By engaging in clandestine elections where every citizen of that area has boycotted, so they can institute something they call a regional council or House of Chiefs. Now, I digress to get here because the question is Swiss. But if this is not the curious case of Benjamin Button, for those of you who have watched the movie, and I encourage you to go out there and watch the movie because it will make sense, where you are forever being returned back to a smaller version of yourself with successive years. So, on the Swiss-led process, La Republique is yet to accept to meet with the armed groups for the first face-to-face talks. And until and unless it does that, all that is happening at this point for your audience to understand is what we call in peace processes, international peace processes, shuttle diplomacy. It is during that phase of the peace process where much of the what you call the delicateness, the issues of confidentiality and the informality lie. And I sympathize with the audience, even with myself, where people feel they ought to know, they ought to be appraised of a lot more, and they don't see it. But this is a scenario whereby until and unless La République agrees to a date when they can meet with the armed groups who have constituted themselves in the body called Ambazonian Coalition Team, then formal announcements in more credible ways will go out. Now, I don't wish to go into the issues of mandate because it just raises in the never Swisses something for them to take and run. Now, Cameroon has given its mandate, and the only way you can substantiate that, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the Swiss, neither do I wish to support them. They do their thing. We are facing an existential threat. Is this: as long as an envoy within the Swiss Federation is granted an audience in La République, can meet with the Secretary General at the Presidency or the Secretary General in charge of the President's cabinet and speak with them, you can take from that La République is engaging in the Swiss process. And I'll tell you this on a position with some authority, that subsequent meetings that were scheduled at the end of this year did not happen. Why? Because Cameroon is busy committing a genocide and pointing to the armed groups and using that as an excuse to deny access and entry into Cameroon, La République, by the envoy. That is a fact. They have also, you must understand this and push against it, use the umbrella of the pandemic to either delay or deny access from the Swiss Foreign Ministry to its envoy to engage and push the calendar and bring it forward. So from my point of view, that's all I can offer to say that it is the best hope for the people, for our people, that there is a process. We should follow it to its natural conclusion, bring as many people, brothers along the way, try to keep them as informed as it's possible for us to do without breaking confidences, that we can indeed get La République, and don't relent on mounting pressure at all the different places we can, whether it's the UN Security Council, the state capitals, as many Ambazonians are doing, and say, Cameroon has not yet ascended to this process in good faith. Don't relent on that piece of it, because until and unless Cameroon can agree on a date for a quick talk, we have to continue to mount pressure and work with the Swedes. And if that process ceases to exist, ACT will continue to engage with any other process that brings this matter to a swift end to save lives and save our family.
Thank you. That was a good one. Well elaborated. Barrister Ghana, you have to give some assurance, double sure here, because people, most Amazonians are not really sure of the negotiation process coming to a very good conclusion in terms of, we have won cases in Banjul. We have won cases, many cases, at the United Nations. We have won cases, but La Republic does not commit to international law. What do we have to do? Because many people are saying that this Swiss is not enough. Maybe we need more sanctions. We need some sanctions. We need something else to hold us, La Republic, responsible. I'm very happy for the ICC case that you guys are doing, to hold these criminals in Yaoundé responsible. Barrister.
By the way, I know you said that you want double assurances from me about the Swiss process. I just want to assure you that Dr. Emma is a lady of high integrity. It's a lady of sacrosanct credentials, and she would not utter anything unless it was of high integrity and high truth. So what she has told you is something that you can take to the bank. But to add to it, we know what La République and France's strategy is, because this thing, La République and France are wearing the same trouser here. Their tactic is to delay, to kill, burn, rape our women, and the purpose of France and La République killing, burning, and raping our women is to force our population to get so frustrated that they give up. Another strategy which they are pursuing is to promote fake solutions out there. As Dr. Osong rightly said, the Grand National Dialogue, special status, something they do not have the right, they do not have the mandate to give. When you do not have the legitimacy to give something, when you demonstrate it, when you demonstrate power without credibility, when you demonstrate power without authority, all you're demonstrating is emptiness. So all what La République has been demonstrating with all of these fake solutions is emptiness. What is our strategy? I know you rightly said maybe the Swiss thing is not enough, but the Swiss thing has taken us very far. There is no conflict in the world that has not been negotiated by a peace settlement. If you look at the conflict in Eritrea against Ethiopia, if you look at the conflict in Sudan, the south and the north, if you look at the conflict in Namibia, when Namibia sought to get its independence from South Africa, even if you look at the conflict in Colombia, where the Furabundo Liberación, Martini Liberación Nacional was fighting against the Colombian government, it ended up on the peace table. So the fact that we already have a mediator appointed by the international community to mediate in this conflict, it already means La République's claim at the beginning of this conflict that Cameroon was one and indivisible, that this matter was an internal issue, has already been demonstrated to be false, because the Swiss mediator who has been appointed is looking at these things as two separate entities in international law. But we need to push the peace process forward, and that is where I speak to every Ambazonian that is listening to this show. We need to sharpen our weapons. We need to sharpen our political weapons. We need to sharpen our military weapons. We need to empower those who are pursuing the military strategy. We need to draft. If you've drafted and you haven't paid your draft, go ahead and pay your draft. We need to arm our boys on the ground, because our people are being killed, as we saw in Mautu, as we saw in Gabu, as we saw in Bali, as we saw in Moyuka, as we saw in Santa. Our people are being killed, and it is our inalienable right under international law to defend ourselves. So let AKs be sounding from across Ambazonia. Let's arm ourselves with the right weapons, and I say this with no fear. Let's arm ourselves with the right weapons. I'm a lawyer. I know that our right to self-defense is sacrosanct. Draft, fund the IG. Let our restoration forces be funded, so that La République should know that it cannot walk or drive into our villages, kill our people, and then drive out with impunity. So we need to pursue the strategy of ushering our own boys, arming our own boys, drafting, so that they can fight for us. So the Swiss is real, our struggle is real, our liberation is coming. We need to make it happen.
Fritz, let me add one more thing. I know you're running out of time. There's something to be said, staying the course when it comes to engagement in an international peace process. But there's also an upper limit, at which point the mediator must prove that it is, in fact, making progress or a way forward. So on our part, we are mobilizing, as Valentine has said, to mount pressure and bring the stakeholders together to insist on the process moving forward. But we don't have the luxury of any finite time, because we are the ones facing the barrel of a gun. So there is a point in time where the Swiss process, just being what it is, waiting, would have to metamorphosize somehow. Let me use that word.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming, and we have really did a lot of we have to continue next week, Saturday, and thank you all for coming. I want to thank all the audience. Don't forget, audience, we have lockdown for Tuesday the 19th, Saturday the 23rd, Tuesday the 26th, and Wednesday the 27th against this fake soccer jamboree coming to our land. We say no to Chan 2021. We say no to any soccer. They keep killing us and they bring us football to come and spice the environment. We don't want football in our territory because things are not going on well. We don't have the Mautu massacre. What are the African countries saying against this massacre in our land? So we ask all Ambazonians to remain steadfast and say no to African football in our land. Thank you all for watching, and see you all next week. Ambazonia must be free. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fritz.
Glory to the Father for making you a nation.